Good morning. If I could ask everybody to please take their seats. I'm Herb Wesson, the chair of this committee, joined today by my colleagues Curran Price, Mitch O'Farrell, Joe Buscaino. So we do have a quorum. We expect a few other members, but since we have such a great turnout today, I think we should get started. Mr. Clerk, why don't you do that thing that you do?
Good morning, sir. Item number 1 is relative to the 2024-2028 Olympic and Paralympic Games, Chief Legislative Analyst and City Administrative Officer report and City Attorney 2 report, and discussion, public comment, and recommendations regarding the host city contract, memorandum of understanding, and other actions of the 2028 Summer Olympic and Paralympic Games.
Okay. You know what I think we're going to start out with? In fact, we're joined by the Vice Chair, Mr. Gilbert Cedillo, so our numbers are growing. Why don't we begin with public comment? Sergeant, if you could move the center chair so that I can see the clock. When I call up folk, you'll get 1 minute. We do have a lot of people that are here to speak, so I want to try to get to everybody. So let's start off with Steve Dose, James Wynn. I think that's, is that Pope or Pop? Elena maybe. Alex Walensky. Jean Claude. Give that to Andrew. Okay, identify yourself.
Hi, my name is Steve Ducey. I live in Hollywood. I'm a member of Democratic Socialists of America. I'm an organizer with the No Olympics LA Coalition. Now, I stand here in shock and outrage, as did millions of Americans during the GOP's attempts to repeal the ACA, as a body supposedly elected to represent the people rushed to vote on a matter of monumental importance without a budget or independent analysis. A mega event 11 years in the future, the planning of which already has speculative international capital licking its chops to displace residents in poor and working class communities, commodifying housing, adding kerosene to the fire that fuels our homelessness crisis. The planning of these games will require all of you to break your promise to protect undocumented Angelenos, as these games will rely on intense collaboration with the Department of Homeland Security, ICE, Customs and Border Patrol, in direct opposition to Executive Directive 20 and SB 54, which many of you claim to support. Shame on you. You should allow public comment at the full public hearing later this afternoon for the members of this council that have yet to hear our demands. Our demands are in your council file. Delay this vote. This is unconscionable.
Thank you. Next. Identify yourself.
Good morning. My name is James Wen. Although I do serve on the City of LA Transgender Advisory Council, this morning I am representing myself. I had the honor of serving on the volunteer program for the ongoing police and fire volunteer program, Olympics. And while I was there, I was misgendered left and right. Although the officers that I work with would correct themselves once I identified my gender, which is he, him, and his. My recommendations to the Olympic Committee Council Commission would be to, on the name tags, even as all these volunteer programs are happening throughout 2028, to include pronoun preferences and perhaps creating a universal tip sheet that's not just LGBT inclusive, but also perhaps there's other intersections that want to have dignity and respect listed. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please. Identify yourself.
Good morning. My name is Alex Walensky, and I wanted to ask the committee to not move forward with this vote. It's extremely concerning that there is no budget released, no independent financial studies, no state guarantee. In particular, we've raised as a community a number of concerns about how the Olympics could really increase rental rates in Los Angeles, accelerating our homelessness and housing affordability crisis. We also raised the concerns that the National Special Security Event designation of the Olympics would put our local law enforcement under federal jurisdiction, which would put 1 million Angelenos in LA County at risk of deportation. 1 in 5 children in LA County that are documented have an undocumented parent, putting families at risk of separation. These are real concerns, and it takes more than a week to discuss that and address these concerns. I hope that you represent all Angelenos in your consideration, because the Olympics could seriously put our communities at risk and at harm. And I really hope that you take that
Thank
seriously.
you. Ms. Pop and Jean-Claude and Johnny Coleman. Yes.
A minute to tell you about my client who has spent 6 months looking for a Section 8 unit and cannot find one because rents are out of control. A minute to tell you about the single mother of 3 who was displaced from her rent-controlled apartment because she didn't know where to find help because a member of this council's staff did not know to send her to us. A minute to tell you about the 3 USC students who have moved in next to a homeless family and a mentally disabled person near the Alliance of Californians for Community Empowerment offices near USC. This city cannot solve its current housing crisis. It has no business exacerbating that crisis by bringing the Olympics. A city that cannot figure out how to get tenant legal resources to its population has no business bringing the Olympics, and all of the consequences that will come to low-income people, low-income renters, to homeless people, and to immigrants.
Thank you.
It is unconscionable, and
Thank
the
you.
lack of
Thank
process
you.
here.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Next speaker, please. Identify yourself.
Good morning. I'm Jean-Claude Edwin of the Democratic Socialists of America. And it is very concerning to me that this vote is being rushed. There has not been enough studies on the impact of the Olympics, and it's all a good show that there's going to be competition and it's going to be inspiring, but the Olympics affects not only those participating and those watching, but it's going to affect all residents of the city. It's raising housing values, raising rents. It's going to displace people. We already have a big homelessness problem in the city, and the Olympics does not address our homeless problem. And the security designation of the city, putting our local police and sheriff under under ICE, it's going to it is not it does not
Thank
put
you.
forward
So could I have
Sanctuary
Johnny
season.
Coleman, David Amaya, Hiram Wong, Kyle Chang. Yes, sir. Identify yourself.
Johnny Coleman, DSA, No Olympics LA. How many homeless people are on the lawn of City Hall right now? I counted 15. That's a disgrace. The fact that you can't deal with that problem and instead are choosing to deal with the Olympics as a backdoor way to address civic issues in LA is disgraceful. How many people sitting in front of me today have actually read the host city contract? Raise your hand. No one. No one has read the host city contract in its entirety. How about the LAO? How about the 2024 entire bid book? So no one has actually read it. Okay, great. Thank you. You've read it, all of you. And everyone in the city council has read it as well? Silence.
Your
okay.
time to talk.
I have 9 seconds, sir. This process has been a sham, and this is a kangaroo court, and you all know it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker. Identify yourself.
Honorable Council members, my name is Hiram Wong. As an Echo Park resident, I've walked the Avenue of Athletes on a number of occasions. These are the sidewalks with embedded plaques bearing the names of such greats as Jesse Owens and Babe Ruth. I'm reminded that these athletes were once dreamers who endured years of training in order to have the opportunity to compete at the highest level. For many, this is what the Olympics represent. Echoing words from Whitney Houston's "One Moment in Time" is the moment when you're racing with destiny. Seize the opportunity that's before you and be winners for a lifetime. Bring back the games to Los Angeles. Grant today's dreamers the chance to become the Olympians of tomorrow. You'll be proud that you did. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next. Yes, sir.
Good morning. My name is Kyle Chang. Good morning, LA City Council members. Good morning, fellow Olympians, Paralympians, and LA 28 volunteers. I just wanted to say, as a resident of Southern California and this area, I very much want to see these games come back to Los Angeles because I've heard so many great stories from family and friends about how great the 1984 Summer Olympics were in Los Angeles from family and friends, how that there was little, if any, traffic, and how the fact that LA made a profit. I want these games to come back because I've always been like, wow, I wish I could experience the Olympics in Los Angeles, and now I finally have the chance. Thank you.
Thank you. David Amaya, Dean Baum or Bain, Nancy, and I can't make out the last name, Nancy, Max Harmon, and Cynthia Strothman. Yes.
Good morning. My name is David Amaya, and I was asked to speak on behalf of the Olympic movement. The Olympic movement started for me on February 22nd, 1980. As you may recall, that day bore witness to the greatest sports moment of the 20th century, the miracle at Lake Placid. And for the next 3.5 decades, yes, I do believe in miracles. We moved the clock to 1984, and I remember at 10 years old watching the Olympic torch pass by my house in the city of Santa Fe Springs on its way to be handed to Rayford Johnson, the great decathlete, as he lit the Olympic cauldron here at the Coliseum in Los Angeles. Now that 8 Olympiads have come and gone, we enter the 21st century, and the Olympic movement once again sets its sight in the City of Angels. Volunteering with the now 2028 committee, the city has a chance to build upon the legacy of 1932 and 1984. The Olympics deserves Los Angeles. In one voice, speak for Los Angeles and do the right thing. Give the world the Olympics it truly deserves. Thank you.
Esteemed City Council members, my name is Dean Bain. One of the speakers last week when we were meeting in Van Nuys said that most of the speakers in favor of the Olympics were athletes or former athletes. It only takes a quick look at me to see I am not an athlete, nor was I ever an athlete, okay? Instead, I'm an academic. My first name really is Dean, but I serve as the Divisional Dean for the Business Administration Division at Pepperdine University. I also was a visiting research fellow for the Humanistic Olympic Studies Center at Renmin University in Beijing from 2005 to 2009. Over the last 15 years, my research has focused on the Olympics. Among other things, I've studied the rationale for cities wanting to host the Summer Games, the impact on the neighborhoods of the venues, and the impact on stock prices when the firm announces the Summer Games. I have much more to say, but I've got 3 seconds to get out, so that's my sign.
Thank you, Dean.
Thank you very much.
Next speaker, please identify yourself.
Hi, good morning, council members. My name is Nancy Shea, and I'm here today on behalf of the International Travel and Tourism Association of California. ITAC is a nonprofit organization that provides a voice and a forum for tour guides and tour professionals in California. We would like to applaud the leadership in Los Angeles for winning the bid to host the 2028 Olympics. When the Olympics come to LA in 2028, the city can expect a major boost in tourism and revenue from tourists. As the city prepares to host the 2028 Olympics, ITAC is diligently preparing our members to handle the influx of international tourists that they may have the best visitor experience possible. We encourage the Los Angeles City Council to approve the bid to host the 2028 Olympics and bring the Olympics back to the city after 44 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please come forward and identify yourself.
Good morning. My name is Max Harmon. I want to hold up for a minute all of the inspiration and excitement of the Olympics, the nationalist excitement and the competition that a lot of people in here feel, but I also want to hold that against the realities of the city of Los Angeles, which is #1 in homelessness in the country, #1 in incarceration, the largest population of undocumented immigrants in the country. We currently have a housing crisis that is being experienced by a lot of people in this city. And so you have to ask yourselves what the Olympics is going to do to all of those situations, what it means to have the Department of Homeland Security have jurisdiction over the city of Los Angeles, the counterterrorism infrastructure that's going to be developed, the increased surveillance, increased militarization of police, increased deportations, driving up rent prices with increased capital, international tourists, as you just heard. So do you care about bringing international tourists, increased capital, or do you care about the undocumented people that currently live in this city, the homeless people that currently live in this city? That's the question you have to ask yourselves, and do you know if the Olympics is actually going to do the things you think it's going to do. Thank you.
Thank you. So, Cynthia, I'm looking for Sylvie Shane, I believe, Ann Orcher, Tal Levy, Gina Steckel. Yes, ma'am. Identify yourself.
Hi, my name's Cynthia Strathman, and I work with Strategic Actions for a Just Economy. We're a nonprofit in South Los Angeles that works on healthy housing and tenant rights. Every week we see tenants come into our clinics who are faced with eviction. They have kids who have rat bites or cockroaches that have crawled into their ears. They're living in extremely overcrowded slum conditions that have been driven by the rent increases and the gentrification processes that are happening in the city. The Olympics are of grave concern for us in other cities. In East London, in Rio de Janeiro, we have seen displacement happen not only as a result of the direct investment in infrastructure, but also as a result of the indirect and private investment over which council has little control. I think there's no rush to do this. There's plenty of time to look at this. I love sports. I really like watching them, but I do not think it's worth endangering the health of our children and our families in Los Angeles in a rush to do this when we really need time to consider and weigh our options. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please. Yes, please come forward. Identify yourself.
Hi, my name is Ann Orchier. Council President Wesson, at the press conference for the 2028 bid last week, you stated that the residents of Los Angeles look to our represented officials to take calculated risks. As it regards the Olympics, this is something I would like to question in particular. First of all, just briefly mentioning that I believe it would be impossible to take a calculated risk on a proposal that hasn't been developed and a budget that hasn't been submitted, but also that historically the calculations on the Olympics are in. They hurt working people, they displace people, and they don't serve our needs. We see that in a number of cities, the rate of homelessness skyrockets after cities receive the bid. This is something we're already experiencing in Los Angeles. The only people who we really see benefiting from the Olympics are business interests and real estate developers. That's not a calculation that we want to bring into play.
Thank you. Next.
Good morning. My name is Tal Levy. I'm here with the Democratic Socialists of America. I think I've heard several speakers talk about how Los Angeles should bring the Olympic Games that the world deserves, and I really do agree. And I think that the Olympic Games that the world deserves is an Olympic Games that doesn't disproportionately harm the working class, that doesn't double or triple the rates of homelessness as it has in Sydney, in Vancouver, and in London. I believe that the Olympic Games that the world deserves is one in which the community truly benefits, not one that the community taxpayers pay to fund an increasingly capital-driven profit machine for oligarchs around the country. I believe that the world deserves an Olympic Games that doesn't exist to hide the human rights abuses that Brazilian government, the South Korean government, the Chinese government has done in the past couple years.
Thank you. If I could have the next speaker, please identify yourself.
Hi, my name's Jenna Steckel, and I'd like to echo the words of the great Whitney Houston. The Olympics will just be one moment in time, but its effects, putting Angelenos under the direct jurisdiction of ICE, an apparatus that has been abducting members of our community and intaining them in inhumane prisons, raising rents, if we follow the examples of recent home cities such as London and Vancouver, by up to 40%, and by exacerbating the number of people who are unable to afford rent and thus are shut out onto living on the streets, all of these things will last for far longer. We've talked today, and I'm sure we'll talk more about inspiration, about inspiring kids to get out of poverty by excelling in sports. I believe we all know that escaping poverty through being a sports virtuoso is the exception to the rule. And so we should not be hoping you run like the Juice or can serve like Serena, the cornerstone of our anti-poverty public policy. We have 55,000 Angelenos living on the streets and counting.
Thank you. Thank you. So, is Sylvie Shame, Jim Chudd, Jed Parrott, Jim Chudd, and Sylvie Shane, please come forward. Don't, if I call you, please come forward. Identify yourself.
Good morning, Jed Perriott. Well, you've heard the concerns. You've heard them for a long time. And, Councilmember Cedillo, O'Farrell, and others who were in attendance at last Friday's hearing, I am deeply disappointed by your comments after you heard us explain and give you documents showing that the Olympics will impact negatively working class and homeless communities. You instead chose to gush about how the Olympics and youth sports makes everybody a winner. What on earth are you talking about? This isn't a Lifetime movie. These are real lives in your district that are going to be affected by these games. You know who the real winners are? Billionaires of the IOC and Casey Wasserman, developers, the police. You know who loses? Working class and homeless people. And we are in the middle of a crisis. If you actually care about working class people and housing and homelessness, you will delay this vote. This is 10 years away. Delay the vote and do more community outreach. A failure to do so shows me you care not one bit about these people.
Thank you. So Jim Chudd, Sylvie Shane. Okay, now the LA 2024/2028 will be represented today by three people that I'd like to call sergeant to the center table. I'd like to call John Neighbor, Janet Evans, sergeant, center table. They're going to do the presentation. And Mr. Carl Lewis, please come forward. And I know that we have other people that have signed up to speak, and I'm going to, kind of make the program work. But I wanted to hear from you representing the committee, and I want to start off with Janet, who's been with us during this endeavor every step of the way. So welcome to City Hall. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Council President Wesson. Thank you, Council members. We're honored to be here today, and I'm honored to be here on behalf of the over 50 Olympians and Paralympians who have joined us today to talk about bringing the Olympic and Paralympic Games home to the city of Los Angeles. You have heard me tell you before, I was 12 years old when I sat down the road in that Memorial Coliseum, watched Rayford Johnson light the cauldron, watched this guy 33 years ago today win his 4th gold medal and make history. And it inspired me to be an Olympian, to get up every morning and swim 12 miles a day. And while it was great to be an Olympian, to represent my country, I think every athlete behind me today would tell you that the greatest part about being an Olympian or a Paralympian is the difference you can make in your community, the people that you inspire, the young people that look up to you, the young people that ask you what it takes to be a champion at whatever it is they want to be. And I have told you all before, and I admire you for all the work you've done. We might have young people that are inspired by the games to become a public servant, to become a scientist, a teacher, an athlete, perhaps, like these two amazing athletes next to me. But the Olympic and Paralympic Games coming to a city not only highlights the city and brings so much, but it brings so much to our young people, and it helps people make their dreams come true. So thank you for your consideration, and we are all honored to be here today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm John Neighbor.
Let me stop you, John. There are people who got up a little earlier and may have said some things that we disagree with, but we let you speak. Nobody hissed, nobody booed. So that I'm not going to tolerate. So when other people are speaking, we listen to them. When you come up, we'll listen to you. So hissing and booing, we're just not going to have. We are going to have an adult conversation where people believe in one side or the other side. But that's what's going to happen here today. Mr. Neighbor, the floor is yours.
Thank you again, Council President Wesson. I'm John Neighbor, swimmer, 1976 Olympics. The people of Los Angeles have always been eager to put on the best Olympic and Paralympic Games. We succeeded in 1932 in the midst of the Great Depression when we ran a profitable event and originated the idea of the Athletes' Village. We did it again in 1984 when we reinvented the game's financial model and leading to the rebirth of the Olympic movement, and also created the LA 84 Foundation, the most successful legacy of any games. We're now ready to do it again. We're already at work preparing. LA 2028 is reimagining the game's future with new venues, multiple ceremony sites, digital and green technology advances, and new storytelling methods. The LA Sports Council's Ready, Set, Gold program, now in its 8th year, is already putting 50 or more Olympians and Paralympians in front of 50 LAUSD schools, teaching those students about the Olympic Games, providing real heroes and personal role models. Los Angeles could have put on a great show 7 years from now, or we can put on an even better show in 11 years. And the IOC gave us 4 years more than they've ever given any other city to do it. Plus, they've given us financial incentives, and they've even been willing to forego their traditional share of any surplus. The deal that's now before us is a better deal for Los Angeles than the deal we might have gotten had we won the LA 2028 bid. Your 2028 team is already assembled. 80% of local taxpayers already embrace the LA 2028 alternative. People are lining up to volunteer in droves. With your support, I expect we will see the greatest Olympic open house party of all time. Please support the new deal. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lewis.
Yes.
And welcome, sir.
Well, thank you, and thank you for having me back in Los Angeles. This is an exciting time. I ran track and field, and the reason I was in Los Angeles is because of people that got in the community. You know, my parents actually started in the community and through volunteerism. And so what the Olympics stands for me isn't just the medals that I won or the records that I broke when I got to Los Angeles, but it's about the role models that were in my life. This will inspire young people that are out there watching to grow up and make a difference in their communities. Yes, we hear all the challenges that we have in our communities, but people are inspired to do things other than themselves to the Olympic Games. When I ran through that stadium and I saw those thousands of people, those times were remembered year after year. People walk up to me every day I walk in this city, and they're reminded of that. And they say, it got me to get my kids out active, getting my kids doing things different. So the Olympic Games isn't just about a community, isn't just about an event. It's about a whole city that gets inspired to do things more than themselves. And those days are different than any way you can think about it. Everyone that remembers there was no traffic. People got together. They made their city better. So what we should do is go back to the times when we could be the best of ourselves, show the world what we are. We have this unique opportunity to show what Los Angeles can do, and I hope that these young people that have the chance in 11 years get a chance to be inspired just the way I was and have their moment in time to make a difference to the rest of their lives.
Thank you. And I'm going to ask if you could stay seated for a while. I'm going to take some more public comment, but the members might have a question that they want to ask you. We're going to bring up city staff that will, give us an update as to where we are at this point. So if you just kind of sit still for a bit, we'd appreciate it. So now I'd like to call up someone that we know very well in this community. If I could get, and it's been very active in this movement, Anita DeFrance, followed by Alison Compton and Greg Louganis. If you guys could come to the podium in the middle. Sergeants, if you could get them over to the podium here.
I am Anita DeFrance, and I've had the privilege of working for the 1984 Games, and I can tell you that the concerns voiced by the previous speakers did not materialize, and I have a great belief that they will not materialize in 2028. We have an excellent plan, which you have scoured, and you have been very careful about reviewing all of the numbers, and you would have to do that, certainly. The IOC believes in this city, and the citizens believe in your leadership. So I want to thank you very much for taking leadership of making sure that everything is correct, because the city deserves the best and will provide the best ever games for the athletes of the world and for the citizens of the world. We can do it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, I'm going to need my timer. Everybody gets the same amount of time. Mr. Luganis, it's an honor to see you, sir.
Hi, thank you. It's an honor to be here. And, I have the same concerns that, everybody else has, as the infrastructure, the financial impact, and all that. We have so much time. I'm very optimistic, that we can work those issues out. And, because I've spoken receiving the Robert J. Kane Award as an openly gay athlete. And those are major concerns, and this administration obviously concerns me at this moment in time. And so I think that in those 11 years, I think that progress will continue to happen in a positive way, and I think we can do it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Alison Compton, and I grew up in Manhattan Beach, where I live now with my husband and our 3 girls. I was 7 years old in 1984, and I will never forget the Olympic torch running past our house, and I remember attending the games with my family at the Coliseum. With the memories of '84 LA Olympics ingrained in my heart, I went on to start the women's Paralympic volleyball team by playing on the men's team, and I'm a bronze medalist from the Athens 2004 Paralympic Games. To bring the Paralympic Games to our diverse LA community would be a dream come true. Your historic vote today has the power to change the lives of our children, our future Olympic and Paralympic athletes. Words cannot describe the excitement and emotion I feel today, and I pledge to continue to do everything in my power to help make 2028 Olympic and Paralympic Games a success. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Now I'd like to call up my friend, I didn't see her, Ty Babylonia, Randy Gardner, and of course Candace. Where are you, Candace? Come on up. Make your way around. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Good.
The youth. I remember watching Peggy Fleming when I was a young child, and it was before her Olympic year, and it inspired me. I really didn't know what figure skating was. I just knew she looked beautiful, and that's what I wanted to do. But she was preparing for the Olympics, and it inspired me, and I knew from that early age that was my goal, was to be an Olympian. So what Janet and John and Carl focused on was the youth and the children of Los Angeles. I was born and raised here. I think it's so important to look up to idols and athletes or whoever. I see a problem with our youth, kids today. They're not focused, and I think bringing the Olympics back here will certainly help that. And I'm so proud.
Thank you.
And will do whatever you need me to do.
Thank you, and it's good to see you again. So there was Randy. In fact, Candace, you should be up here. But Candace knows how to adapt. Give her the mic, and then when you finish, I'll bring you around.
Okay.
Oh, wait, no, we're gonna
move the furniture.
For you?
We're gonna relocate.
For those of you that don't know, Candace has been a part of this since day one, part of the great team that was put together by Mr. Casey Wasserman. Anyway, it's good to see you, so go ahead.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, and it's good to see all of you, too. I might get a little emotional because today, 33 years ago, on this day, at this time, and the schedule says between 8 and 12, I had the opportunity, because Juan Antonio Samaranch, then the president of the International Olympic Committee and the father of disabled sport in Spain, wanted to see people with disabilities on the track in the Olympics. And he, with the LA 84 organizing committee, put together an 800 meters for women and a 1,500 meters for men on the track. And this day changed my life, because at this time I was on the start line and waiting for the gun to go off in lane 1, and I knew all 18 of us, the 10 men and the 8 women that were going to be in these races, we knew we were going to change the world, because the world was going to see people with disabilities differently from they imagined us. They imagined us as people who weren't able, people who were sad, probably had terrible lives and couldn't do anything. And when we raced, they saw athleticism, they saw power, they saw excitement, and they wanted to see more. And because we were broadcast worldwide, people all over the world were changed. And in that moment, there was a huge positive social movement that was changed. There were laws enacted. People had their human rights and their civil rights. And now, I think, with 2028, we have that opportunity not just to create positive civil change for people with disabilities, but everyone.
Thanks,
everyone
Candy.
that feels disenfranchised.
Thank you. Egerton, Egerton, are you here? Maria Elena, I thought I saw Egerton Forrester, Maria Elena, and Dr. Michelle King. Just come on up. If I called you, work your way. In fact, maybe I should call up some more. Dr. Robert Ross, Jessica Lau from CCA. Good to see you. Good morning.
Good morning. Maria Elena Durazo with Unite Here, the Union of Hospitality Workers, and I'm wearing 2 buttons today. The first is my pride of having been able to serve with Casey Wasserman and the whole board and all of the athletes to try to bring the Olympics to Los Angeles. I went to the 1984 Olympics, and it was really extraordinary, and to honor the athletes. But I want to also say today to thank the tens of thousands of housekeepers and cooks and bellmen who work in the hospitality industry and who greet and are the face of Los Angeles with the visitors from throughout the world. The hospitality industry will prosper, Los Angeles will prosper, our communities will prosper, and so will those workers. So I want to personally thank you, Councilman President, and all of the city council members who are supporting this, and I hope that today's vote is a vote with power. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Dr. King.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Dr. Michelle King, and I am the superintendent of the Los Angeles Unified School District. And I am here to join my fellow speakers in urging you to support the contract to host the Olympic and Paralympic Games in 2028. When this city last hosted the Olympics in 1984, I worked at venues in Westwood and attended various events. I was so inspired by the world-class athletes who showed that young people can achieve anything through hard work and determination. As superintendent, I have not forgotten that lesson. I know our students will be inspired by the games and achieve more and to embrace an active and healthy lifestyle. I look forward to engaging our youth in the games again, and I respectfully request that the committee support the Los Angeles bid in hosting the 2028 Olympics and Paralympic Games. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Lau.
Good morning. My name is Jessica Lal, and I'm the president and CEO of the Central City Association. We represent over 400 businesses working to advocate and advance initiatives that enhance downtown LA's vibrancy and increase investment in the region. It is truly a golden opportunity for Los Angeles to host the 2028 Olympic and Paralympic Games. LA is a vibrant, forward-looking city that always dreams big. It is the perfect place to host the games, and this is a win for businesses, communities, and residents of all Los Angeles. Downtown LA is the city's transit hub, and it will be even more important for all the seamless connections to the Olympic venues when major projects like the Regional Connector, Purple Line Extension, MyFig, and 6th Street Bridge are complete. I am thrilled to join my friends and colleagues today in advancing and inviting people from around the world to experience Los Angeles and the great amenities that downtown LA will contribute, ranging from LA Live to the revitalized river. Thank you, and let's bring home the games.
Thank you. Hey, and Bob, before you start, let me, I'm looking for Keith Parker from UCLA, Calvin Lyons, Oscar Delgado, and Victor Dominguez. Bob, the floor is yours, or Dr. Ross.
Good morning, all. Good morning, all. Bob Ross, President and CEO of the California Endowment. We care about wellness and fitness and health in underserved communities. We are proud. I'm a proud member also of the LA 24, now 28 committee. We're in full support of the proposal that is before you. But I also want to say I think it's a reminder, having heard the pleas of other speakers who are concerned about having the Olympics here, I don't think it's impossible for us to do both. We can host an extraordinary and compelling Olympic Games, and we can have a better community in 2028 on the issues that we all care about, on issues of housing, on issues of health and wellness, on issues of homelessness, about a better future for our young people and the communities they serve, and economic development. So I would say the Olympics coming here in 2028 is not only setting the scene for inviting global athletes from around the world, but let's challenge ourselves to be in a better community, in a better place 10 years from now, and you have our support.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Brother Parker, come forward.
Good morning, Council President Wesson and members of the City Council. Thank you for your leadership and the leadership of our distinguished UCLA alumnus, Casey Wasserman. On behalf of Chancellor Gene Block and the UCLA community, we are pleased to support the motions by the Council to adopt the contract for the 2028 Olympics. UCLA is proud to be a partner, proud to be chosen as the Olympic Village for the athletes, site at Pauley Pavilion for Olympic activities, and just to be a part of the Los Angeles celebration of the Olympics. I want to introduce Matt Elliott, who can talk a little more about UCLA's facilities.
Good morning. Thank you. Just wanted to say briefly, at UCLA, where Olympians have won hundreds of medals and where we see these talented student athletes every day, we know the power of sport to transform lives. And we are lucky to have facilities, world-class facilities like Pauley Pavilion, Drake Stadium, the John Wooden Center, and we are committed to making the accommodations necessary to allow the Olympic Village to be at UCLA and allow the athletes to train and succeed. Thank you very much.
Next speaker. Welcome.
Hello, my name is Calvin Lyons. I am the president and CEO of the Boys and Girls Clubs of Metro Los Angeles, and thank you for the time today. Boys and Girls Clubs of Metro Los Angeles is comprised of a group of standing Boys and Girls Clubs in Los Angeles: Challengers, Watts Willowbrook, Nickerson Gardens, Jordan Downs, and Bell Gardens, Rio Hondo. Our presence in the greater LA area was established with the oldest of these clubs in 1957. We serve over 2,500 youth a year in all of our programs and across combined program sites and clubhouses, and we do so in some of the most underserved and under-resourced communities in Los Angeles. Sports programs are a key piece of our overall youth services, and the legacy of the 1984 Games has been instrumental in our ability to serve our kids. We have been supported by the LA 84 Foundation for 2 decades. Over that time span, thousands of youth served have had the opportunity to experience the benefits of participating in sports. And we have found the legacy of the Olympics to be invaluable in supporting our kids.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker.
Good morning, honorable members of the City Council and general public. My name is Oscar Delgado, and I'm a director and member of the L84 Foundation team. Our president and CEO, Renata Simmer, was not able to be present today, but she sends her regards. Sports and the Olympic Games are a part of Los Angeles DNA. With that said, I believe it leads Los Angeles to host a third Olympic Games. The Olympic Games are arguably not just the largest sporting event on the planet, but the largest event, period, which really is an opportunity for so much. The work that Mayor Garcetti, Casey Wasserman, Gene Sykes, and the entire 2028 bidding team has done great things. They've positioned the city of Los Angeles to feel nothing but pride in hosting and welcoming the world to the place we call home. The Olympic Games of 1984 created the LA 84 Foundation, which has impacted over 3 million children, over 75,000 coaches, and over 2,200 organizations, of which many are present today. We responsibly and effectively invested a surplus that has grown from $93 million to $160
Thank
million.
you.
We have been the stewards of
Thank
Los
you.
Angeles.
You get a minute. You get a minute.
Good morning, Council, Council members. My name is Juan de la Cruz, representing the YMCA of Metropolitan Los Angeles. We are one of the largest and oldest nonprofit organizations in the county of LA. We've been here for about 134 years. In 1984, we were one of the organizations that helped tremendously with youth and volunteers to support the Los Angeles 84 Olympics. We're here representing 26 YMCAs, over 500,000 participants, more than 60,000 youth that represent from the YMCA, here to support the bid for 2028. And also, I just wanted to add that in the last 3 decades, we've benefited tremendously with the support of LA 84 Foundation that has helped create and continue to support youth development here in Los Angeles. So thank you, and we support the bid. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Eric Garner, Moses Ball, our own Paul Gonzalez. I didn't see Paul. Come on. Nastia Lucan, and as Mr. Cedillo said, Champ, come on up. And Sarah Reinertsen. Eric, good to see you.
Good to see you. Thank you. Good morning. My name is Eric Garner. I'm the president and CEO of LA's Best after-school program, which serves 25,000 kids in close to 200 schools across Los Angeles. And for the past 2 decades, we've also partnered with LA 84 Foundation to bring sports programming to children who would not otherwise have had access. As you all know, sports programs keep kids active, but also prepare them for life, teaching them collaboration, sportsmanship, perseverance, and leadership. We need to build on the legacy of the 1984 Games, which showed that when done right, the Olympics actually can leave lasting benefits for economically distressed communities like those served by LA's Best every day. With dedicated funding for youth sports, the 2028 Olympics will continue 1984's legacy in supporting children in Los Angeles. Without the legacy of the 1984 Games, over 15,000 LA's Best students who participated in sports programs last year would not otherwise have had that crucial opportunity, and we're proud to stand here in support of this bid to bring equity to youth sports in Los Angeles. Thank you.
How you doing, Mr. President, council members? My name is Paul Gonzalez. I am 1984 Olympic gold medalist and a member of Boyle Heights down here at the projects. I'm a project kid, proud of it, and just want to say it's a double no-brainer. LA should have it. There's no way. I mean, we have the infrastructure, we have everything, and we just have our athletes that are waiting to get gold. We need to bring it back. I'm here to support the Olympic Games of 2028. We should have got it in 2024, but, well, you know, you gave it to France. Well, bonjour. You know, what could I say? But anyway, I'm here to support the games. It belongs here in LA. Let's show them how we can do it, and let's do it right. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Hi, my name is Nastia Lucan, and my dad competed at the 1988 Olympic Games, won 2 gold and 2 silver medals. My mom was a rhythmic gymnast and a world champion, both for the Soviet Union. I was born in Moscow, Russia, and when we were 2.5 years old, my parents moved to the United States of America because of a dream and to give me the best possible life that I could possibly be. Their dream was to open up a gymnastics school one day and coach their own athletes to becoming world and Olympic champions. Never imagined it'd be their own daughter. But my dream today is now to inspire others to achieve their dreams. And my parents have always taught me that if you have a dream and a goal and if you work hard every single day, that nothing is impossible. And so that's why we're here today. We want to bring back the Olympic Games to this amazing city of Los Angeles. Wasn't alive for 1984, but I've heard amazing things about it, and the Olympic Games have inspired me to achieve my lifelong dream, and now I hope that we can inspire our youth in the future, which is really the future of the United States and the entire world. Thank you.
Thank you. Please.
Good morning. My name is Sarah Reinertsen, and I'm a Paralympic athlete. I competed at the 1992 Paralympic Games. And although those were in Barcelona, Spain, and I was a little girl growing up in New York, I moved to Los Angeles and to California because of my own sporting dreams. I wanted to do the Hawaii Ironman and push another barrier, but I'm involved with the 2028 campaign because as a person with a disability, I have long believed in the power of sport to show how inclusive we can be. And I know that these games will be another opportunity to raise the flag for people with disabilities and show that we can be in inclusive games. Bienvenidos a todos. And everybody with a disability, no matter what country you come from, we welcome you here. I chose Los Angeles. I came here for a scholarship to go to the University of Southern California for one of the only scholarship programs for athletes with disabilities. And I know that these games can continue to raise inclusive opportunities. We are going to help people with disabilities get to any starting line at the Olympic Games no matter what. So thank you for your support for all athletes.
Hi, my name is Moses Ball. I'm from a muralist from right here in Los Angeles, the 9th district to be precise. Currently, I'm working on a project for Expo Center featuring Olympians of color. This will be probably the first project, a mural, public art mural in Los Angeles featuring Paralympians. So we definitely think it's something that can benefit the entire city. The great thing about this particular project is we've had the pleasure of working with 25 youth from South Los Angeles. The youth also get a stipend. This is something that only LA 2024 and now 2028 could provide for our communities. They've been able to meet great Olympians like Anita DeFrance and Candace Cable. Candace Cable said that para in Paralympian stands for parallel. So we look forward to working in parallel with the City Council and LA 2028 in partnership on future projects for the youth of South Los Angeles. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Tony Acevedo, Donna Mayu, Mary Leslie, Dan Stimler, and Gary Tobin. Please come forward. Don't be shy. Come forward. Just come on up, Mary. You won the competition to get to the center aisle first.
Apparently.
You won the gold. So
Apparently,
anyway,
LABC is the fastest to the podium. Good morning, Council President Wesson and the honorable council members and the Olympians today. As president of the Los Angeles Business Council and a proud member of the LA 2028 board, I'm here to solidly support this proposal this morning. While it seems like 2028 is a long time away, we have a tremendous opportunity to plan for the most successful games. In 2028, we'll have a world-class transportation system, a modernized airport, welcoming the world to LA. Beautiful new facilities in Inglewood Stadium and the renovated Memorial Coliseum will connect our past to the future. This major moment for LA businesses is a time to ensure that small, minority, and women-owned businesses also play a role. We would like the 2020 Olympics in London to be an example of how hundreds of thousands of small businesses here in LA could have contract opportunities. In London, 75% of them went to small businesses. So with that, we thank you and we support this contract.
thank you. Next speaker.
Good morning. My name is Dan Stimler, and I'm proud to be representing the University of Southern California. I currently serve as the Vice President of Auxiliary Services and the Chief Operating Officer of the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum. In other words, I'm one of the university point of contacts responsible for working with the city, county, LA 2028, and other stakeholders to bring the Olympics back to Los Angeles. On behalf of our President, CL Max Nikias, and our Board of Trustees, we look forward to working with the city, mayor, and the entire city of Los Angeles to host the 2028 Olympics. While we work with all of you to prepare for the Olympics, we are also in the process of renovating the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum, which includes $270 million in renovations that is being financed by the university without any public dollars. In addition, we're also working with the Los Angeles Football Club on their new state-of-the-art soccer stadium on the site of the old sports arena, again with no public funding. As we begin to organize for the Olympics, we are also proud of the fact.
Thank you.
Thank you. We urge you to support this.
Thank you.
and Council. My name's Donna Mayhew, 88, 92 Olympian, javelin throw, track and field. Thank you for having me today. I just want to ask you guys to vote to bring the games back here. I remember in 84, I didn't make the team, had a couple surgeries, but watching the Olympic torch come through, it just really inspired me. I'm involved with Ready, Set, Gold, going around speaking to kids at LA Unified School Districts, and they do look up to us, Olympians, and it just gives them a positive role model, and it just encourages them to be better kids, and I think this will be great for our youth, and we have the infrastructure. Like Paul said, it's a no-brainer. So bring the games back. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Tobin?
Gary Tobin with the Los Angeles Area Chamber of Commerce. As I stand here today, I have thousands of counterparts around the United States that wish they were in this position and their city had the opportunity to host the Olympics. We applaud the time deadline that the 2028 Games will create for so many important infrastructure projects and major challenges like housing and homelessness. We're excited about the global spotlight that will be focused on Los Angeles for the next 11 years. We know the huge positive economic impact that the Games will bring to Los Angeles, and we're proud that so many of our fellow citizens support hosting the third Olympic Games in Los Angeles. Let's just do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Rachel Moore, Stuart Waldman, Jane Kennedy Overton. Jane, I didn't see you. If you're here, come. There she is in the back. Mark Myers, Hillary Firestone. Hi.
Hi, good morning. I'm Rachel Moore, and I'm the president and CEO of the Music Center, which is just a stone's throw away from here. And I am absolutely delighted to be here to support the 2028 Olympic Games coming to Los Angeles. Hosting the Olympic Games not only allows our city to provide a platform for the world's greatest athletes, but also provides an enormous opportunity for Los Angeles and Southern California to highlight its expansive and multifaceted cultural landscape. 50-plus years ago, Dorothy Chandler made a statement that is no less true today than it was then. A truly great city must have great art. The 2028 Games will not only highlight that Los Angeles is a great city with great art, but also that it is a city which is redefining the arts for the 21st century. Unlike too many of our brethren cities on the East Coast which focus on the arts as legacy, the arts in Los Angeles are forward-looking and celebrate the multiplicity of voices and cultural narratives that shape not only us, but are shaping the greater Los Angeles region. Oh, well, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Waldman?
Good morning. I'm Stuart Waldman, president of the Valley Industry and Commerce Association, representing over 400 businesses in the San Fernando Valley. We are excited by the opportunity for Los Angeles to host the Olympic and the Paralympic Games in 2028. We are proud that the San Fernando Valley will be home to one of 4 sports parks. The Valley Sports Park will be site for the Olympic canoe slalom, shooting, and equestrian events, and the site for Paralympic shooting and equestrian events. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for the Valley to show the world what we have to offer. The Games and their legacy projects will benefit Valley residents for generations, and the bid ensures that Los Angeles will host a cost-effective, smart Olympics with reduced risk for our city. VICA is proud to support the 2028 bid. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Councilman.
Morning.
Councilman Wesson. Jane Kennedy here, and I am a supporter of the LA 28 Games. With all my heart, I believe that sports can be used as a peacekeeping tool. I've said that so many times before. I believe it can be used as a tool for so many things, and I've heard the concerns of some of the citizens of the city of Los Angeles, but I ask them to use this tool, use this opportunity to make Los Angeles even greater than it already is. It's one of the best cities in the world in terms of the track record that we have in the past Olympic opportunities that we've had. So I believe, again, with all my heart, that we can in 2028 make this a tremendously successful endeavor, and that we can address some of those concerns, and that we can say to the whole world, because we've done it before, we can say, look at us, this is how we do it. This is how we do it. And I think that with the blessing that of the City Council, I urge you please to extend your bid to grant us this opportunity to give this gift to Los Angeles.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Good morning, City Council. My name is Hillary Firestone, and I am here representing the Natural Resources Defense Council. NRDC is one of the country's oldest environmental nonprofits. We were founded in 1970 by a group of lawyers, and many people here know us today for our legal action, but we're also scientists, engineers, and policy advocates, and we strongly support LA's 2028 bid for the Olympic and Paralympic Games. And you'll ask yourself, why is an environmental organization supporting the Olympics? Well, we are working in cities, and we're specifically working in Los Angeles on improving energy efficiency, increasing renewable energy, working to improve our transit infrastructure, increasing access to affordable housing. And we actually wrote the book on how to green sports stadiums. So the work that we're doing in Los Angeles will not only make for a successful and sustainable Olympic Games, but it will also make for a successful and sustainable Los Angeles. So we strongly support the Olympics to improve our city. So thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Hello, Mark Myers. Good morning, everyone. I'm here on behalf of a fantastic program here in town called Ready, Set, Gold. Our mission is to promote health and fitness to many thousands of LAUSD students throughout the area, and we do so by sending our team of 50 Olympians and Paralympians, many of whom are here today, into dozens of schools throughout Los Angeles. The athletes exercise with the kids, teach them about health and fitness, and educate and motivate them to adopt healthy habits into their daily lives. And Ready, Set, Gold is proud to support bringing the games back to Los Angeles.
Thank you, sir. Okay, if I could get Alan Burkus, Jeff Williams, Sam Persick, Mark Kier, and let me try this, Sibnim Kim Ya Kuglu. So please come forward.
Thank you. My name is Alan Burkus, and I'm the Executive Director of Positive Coaching Alliance in Los Angeles. Through our partnership with the LA84 Foundation, we've trained over 3,000 coaches in character development, impacting over 45,000 youth athletes that they coach. We support bringing the Olympics here in 2028 because we know through the work of the LA84 Foundation that providing sports, particularly in underserved communities, gives kids a better chance to be healthy and to learn the life lessons sports can teach so they can excel in school and in life. So thank you, and please vote to bring the Olympics and Paralympics to LA in 2028. Thank you.
Thank you. Good to see you again.
Good to see you again, Mr. President. Good morning, City Council, my esteemed colleagues, fellow Olympians, City of Los Angeles. I've heard a lot of things up here this morning, some which were a surprise to me, some of the things I never heard before and stuff about the city. But at the end of the day, LA is the only city that can really put this thing on and do it the right way. LA has the infrastructure. We already have the stadiums. We have the Coliseum. We have the Rose Bowl. We have Staples Center. We have Galen Center. We have Poly Pavilion. We have UCLA. We have from Seal Beach all the way up to Malibu. We have it. Put the hustle behind the muscle. Let's make this happen. Go ahead and give us the vote. We'll show you and the world that we can do this, make a profit, and not displace anybody. Thank you.
Okay, now for the record, you state your name into the mic. For the record, state your name into the mic.
Oh, I'm sorry. Jeff Williams, Los Angeles, California.
All right. So I'm still looking for Mark, Sam, Tiago Pereri, Kimberly Oden, Mike Shea, John Moffitt, Ray Brown. Just come on up. Don't be shy. Identify yourself and go ahead.
My name is John Moffitt. I was on the 1980 Olympic swim team, and I also had the honor of competing right here in front of my hometown crowd in the 1984 Olympics. Now, in 1980, those games were boycotted, and I wasn't able to go to Moscow to compete. And in 1984, I don't have medals to show for my efforts. But you know what I do have? I have my life that has been transformed, not by going to the Olympics, but by the dream and aspiration of going to the Olympics. Every single one of us here represents that kid that at one point was just a normal kid, and at some point we had a dream, and we decided to act on it. And that's the magic about sports, and that's the magic about Olympic spirit. So 2028 is a great opportunity to ignite the dreams not only of the kids of Southern California, but of the world, and bring the Olympic spirit home. Thank you very much for having us here today.
Thank you. Good to see you again.
Well, good morning, Council and everybody that's here. My name is Ronaldo Brown, straight out of Compton. The Olympic Games was really a great thing for me because I made the Olympic at a young age, at the age of 17, as a junior at Compton High School. Once I had my dream and my goal, all I needed was a coach and somebody to direct me, and they did, and I made the Olympic Games. To bring the I was also a volunteer in 1984, and I'd like for you guys to really vote on the 2028 games to bring it back to LA. I tell you, I mean, we can really do a great job, and I'd like to see the whole city excited. And there's a lot of youth like I was growing up in Compton that will get excited to try to make the 28 Olympic Games, and just bring it home, and we'll do the rest. Thank you.
Thank you. So we have Kimberly Oden and Mike Shea, Gideon Massey, Paul Trapani, Laura Zucker, Matt Elliott. Just come on forward. Hi, identify yourself.
Good morning. My name is Kimberly Oden, and I participated in the 1988 and 1992 Olympic Games in the sport of volleyball. When I was a sophomore in college, I was very blessed to attend the Olympic Games here and got to watch the men's volleyball team win the gold medal and the women's volleyball team win the silver medal. I also got to watch Carl Lewis and many other people. And as an impressionable person at that time, the Olympic fire had already been started in me, but that definitely made it a goal in my life. And I'm very thankful that I was able to participate in that. Thinking about what I've taken from my Olympic experience and what I do now as a high school counselor at Campbell Hall High School, I take the Olympic spirit and what I learn there with my students every day, helping them get to college, helping them prepare for the sport that they need, and continuing that spirit. So I'm thankful that you are. I just ask you to please vote to bring it back.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Good morning, Council. Thank you for having us here. My name is Gideon Massey, a 2004-2008 Olympian in the sport of cycling. There's a saying in the Olympic movement that says the Olympics is not every 4 years, it's every day. And for myself, now being about 10 years removed from my last Olympic Games, it feels like only a blink of an eye that time has passed. But I can say all of us here today are living and breathing proof of what the Olympics means to not only participate, but to also have it impact our lives. To see the tangible excitement and opportunity that comes with the possibility of having the Olympic Games back here in 2028 here in Los Angeles, it's palatable, it's exciting, it's something that not everybody has a chance to be an athlete, to compete for this great country on the world stage, but to have it coming back here to the U.S., that's exciting, whether you're an athlete, whether you have that opportunity, or whether you go on to something else.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker, please.
Good morning. I'm Laura Zucker, the former executive director of the Los Angeles County Arts Commission. The importance of the 1984 Olympic Arts Festival cannot be underestimated. It was the seminal moment that created the cultural explosion in Los Angeles that now encompasses 3,500 nonprofit arts organizations. Part of the legacy of 1984 were the LA Arts Festivals that followed and cemented LA's commitment to cultural equity. The 2028 Cultural Olympiad will have similar impact, propelling cultural assets of LA onto a world stage. And it will provide the opportunity for the City of LA, with its stellar Department of Cultural Affairs, to continue its cultural leadership, showing the world how the arts brings diverse communities together. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, and thank you, council members. My name is Paul Trapani, and I am a retired LAUSD teacher and co-founder and program director for Students from LA. SRLA is a program that helps prepare middle and high school students from the greater Los Angeles area to develop the skills and character to complete the Los Angeles Marathon. With me are two of my students, winners, who completed the LA Marathon. One is Fina and Shady, and they are direct benefactors of the legacy of the Olympics. Fina will be attending Norwich University this fall, and Shady will be graduating in 2018 from high school. 33 years ago, I was inspired by the energy and community of the Olympics, and I wanted to share a taste of that experience with my students. Soon after the Olympics, SRLA was born, and with the support of the LA 84 Foundation for the past 29 years, we have served 63,000 students and hundreds of volunteer teacher leaders. 99% of them finished the marathon, and 99% of them graduate high school. Wow. Please continue to make this possible by welcoming back to Los Angeles Paralympics and Olympics. Thank you.
Thank you. So again, did Matt Elliott come up, Mike Shea, Mark Keir, Tiago? Okay, members, before I call up our city department folk, did you have any questions at all for our representatives at the head table from 2028? Any questions directly? Well, why don't you guys stay a while? Miss So Rich, where's Jim? Why don't you pull up another? Mr. Walsh, please sit down. I'm going to try to get to everybody. I'm breaking this up. I'm running this meeting. Just relax. Come on, Mr. Llewellyn, and if we have representative from the city attorney's office, Rich, could you pull up just another chair? And everybody squeeze in. Who wants to start?
I could start. Sharon So with the CLA's office, and with me are Rich Llewellyn, CAO, and Dan Kreinbring, representing the City Attorney's Office. So the item before you is a CAO-CLA report on the opportunity to host the 2028 Olympic and Paralympic Games. This is a follow-up report to your instructions to us last week to provide a revised MOU to mitigate some of the financial liabilities as a result of an additional 4-year extension of waiting for the Games, as well as finalizing the tripartite agreement and other actions necessary if the Council were to decide to move forward. Last week, we raised in our report several issues for your consideration. Those issues were related to the additional years of economic and political uncertainty, as well as the fact that there was no budget validation that we did for the 2024 Games. There was concern about the state financial commitment for the $250 million backstop, if necessary, which was specific to the 2024 Games, as well as the fact that the MOU and tripartite agreement were all in process. Also included in our report of last week was the analysis of the host city contract provisions. Some of the provisions that were included in the host city contract did address a number of the concerns that we had, namely with regard to the $270 million in additional revenue that was being provided by the IOC, $30 million of value in in-kind services, and $67 million in cost savings, as well as other benefits to be determined later that all provided upside potential. In addition of significance, too, was the IOC's willingness to waive some of their royalty costs and also a $180 million advance for the operations of the OCOG and to fund youth sports in the host city. Pursuant to your instructions, the report before you today includes the final documents for Council to consider. It includes safeguards to mitigate the concerns raised last week. As discussed, the previously discussed host city contract, but more importantly, the new MOU that has been negotiated with the organizing committee, the USOC, and with the city will provide some additional enhanced safeguards for the city. This is already in addition to the financial protections that were included in the last MOU. All of those provisions do carry forward to the revised MOU that is before you. In addition, it includes a new requirement for a host city contract insurance policy for any unforeseen circumstances that might arise during the performance of that host city contract. The contingency that had been previously set at $250 million, this contingency would be only used with your council action approving that use. That contingency is now increased to $270 million. In addition, there is a budget validation that will be required for the 2028 games. The organizing committee will be responsible. There will be no general fund impact as a result of that. And in addition, there will be additional quarterly reporting that will be required. This is in addition to the annual reporting requirement that was previously included in the prior MOU. With regard to the state financial backstop, so as you know that the legislative session, they are currently in recess. There is no opportunity to have any legislative action to address that backstop, but what is included in our report are letters of support from both Kevin de Leon and as well as Assembly Speaker Rendon indicating their support to provide similar legislation to support the 2028 games. And finally, included in our report are the final agreements related to the tripartite agreement, the host city contract, as well as the MOU. So really, members, the decision before you today is really to decide whether to continue to compete for 2024 or whether to pursue the 2028 games. If it is the latter case and it is your desire to move forward on pursuing the 2028 games, then we would recommend that you approve the recommendations in our report, which would basically endorse the city's candidacy for the 2028 games, authorizing the council president and mayor to approve and execute the tripartite agreement and MOU, authorizing the provision of the written guarantees as it relates to signing the host city contract if awarded the games, as well as addressing any financial shortfalls if they occur, and also approving state legislation to pursue that financial backstop for the city should it be necessary. And there are also some other related actions for your consideration. And with that, we're available to answer any questions.
Mr. Llewellyn?
Yes, sir. Just to kind of repeat a little bit. Good morning. Our report before you includes the necessary agreements for you to entertain a candidacy for 2028, including very significant new financial concessions from the IOC to support that candidacy. But very importantly, and maybe most importantly from our seats, is the recommended memorandum of understanding that's attached to the document, which contains very significant protections for the residents of Los Angeles. Yes, there are potentially great rewards to the city in hosting the games. There are also risks, and your council has been very firm that you want to protect against those risks. So the MOU has the most transparent Olympics process ever, rigorous budget analysis by third-party experts, a large contingency account, larger than before, the fullest insurance package ever in the Olympic Games, and ongoing oversight and management of the OCOG itself as we proceed ahead, including membership on its board and any committee of the OCOG. We believe that the package before you correctly balances the rewards with the risks, and therefore we have recommended your approval of that. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to hear from the City Attorney's Office.
Dan Kreinbrink from the City Attorney's Office. We concur with the report. We believe that the two agreements before you are far more robust than the 2024 agreements.
Could you repeat that a little louder?
Hopefully this is on.
Yeah, it is
Okay,
now.
good. We believe that the agreements before you are far more robust than the 2024 agreements. There are increased protections for the city, as stated by Ms. So and Mr. Llewellyn. There are increased amounts of resources for the city, and it's just a better deal overall. There are always going to be unforeseen factors coming with an extension of 4 years, but LA 28 has worked with the city to really mitigate those risks. We're very comfortable with these agreements.
Thank you. Now, before I open it up for questioning, I'm getting ready to close the public comment portion of this committee meeting, so I'd like to call forward Mr. Previn, Mr. Herman, Mr. Walsh. Please come forward. Mr. Previn.
Thank you, Council President Wesson, and welcome to so many Olympians. It's very exciting. Obviously, Angelenos love the Olympics. I think that the concern that has arisen is the timing. And though it is 11 years away, there seems to be an enormous amount of pressure. And again, this is not my view that we should balk at doing this. I just think that when Angelenos are rushed, it feels odd. Now, there are questions about, for example, the funding to support the IOC for 11 years. Is it all the same funding? For example, Jeff Millman, does he get the same salary for now 11 years? I mean, we want all the work to be done, but it seems like there might be less work. Has that been factored in? It's just so hard because we don't have access to the information at such a clip. But I am a big fan of the Olympics, and the 1976 Olympics in particular. Mark Spitz was my hero, so I hope we can get this done. I just hope in a reasonable time frame so that Angelenos don't feel screwed. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Herman. And if Sylvie Chang could start making her way down, go ahead, Mr. Herman.
With so many risks, are we still going to provide public safety at $1 billion? When you heard all the opposition about homelessness, Measure HHH, all these risks, but yet you got the up there dumb asshole who can't fucking manage a budget who's going to fuck up our city more. So fuck you, Mr. Krikorian. I can't wait till Trump comes in.
Would you stay on topic?
The topic is about Trump making the Olympics possible. We can't do it unless we have a budget to correct all the problems this city has steals, and disrupts our fucking lives. So fuck you and fuck your Olympics and fuck everything else about you. I got 12, 11, 10,
you gotta stay
42
on the topic
USC 1983. Local law says what I say personally and effectively. Fuck you,
Thank
Jason
you.
Herman
Thank you.
Wesson Jr.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Walsh.
John Walsh, blogging at HollywoodHighlands.org, J. Walsh Confidential, tweeting at Hollywood Dems. I want you to know that we are petitioning...
Wait a minute, Mr. Walsh. Wait a minute. Hold your time. Mr. Herman, you're disrupting the meeting. So this is your last warning.
Give me another 5 seconds.
Okay, I'm going to give you back your time. Just relax. Mr. Herman, Mr. City Attorney, he is disrupting the meeting. When he does it again, he will be removed. Would somebody please give Mr. Walsh back his 1 minute?
Okay. We are officially petitioning the World Court at The Hague to issue an injunction. We have heard, there are reports that bribes have been offered to the Olympic Commission. And if you have any information concerning bribes, do not give it to the FBI, do not give it to the LAPD, give it to Interpol, the international agency that is involved. There's billions of dollars involved here. You can buy off these people easily. And we believe that the World Court at The Hague has the power. the power to do what we wanted to do, and that is to freeze this whole thing. What I mean, you keep changing the rules, you keep doing anything you want. I'm telling you right now, this city will be in chaos, and this city will be bankrupt if you hold the games.
Thank you. Sylvie, please come forward.
Sylvie Shane, thank you so much for being patient. I know you called my name earlier. I'm a housing rights advocate, and I don't need to press upon how much of a crisis we're in terms of housing and homelessness. There's no way to know what the impact of these games will be, and we are definitely not in an upswing in terms of that. But beyond that, what concerns me are the financial implications. According to a Japanese public policy experts, the numbers in the bidding file are generally fiction. And this is so that bidders can present the lowest estimate to promote an image that they are taking a conservative approach, according to the report issued last fall by the Tokyo Investigation Panel. And we talk about the '84 Olympics. I think it's very important to understand that the '84 Olympics were a success because there was a referendum passed by the citizens that they wouldn't cover the overage. And so I recommend that this bid proposal include a provision. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, our last public comment speaker on this subject. Okay, Mr. Herman, please remove Mr. Herman. It's appropriate that the last speaker on this subject would be our former colleague, Mr. Tom LaBonge. Mr. LaBonge.
Good morning to the great members of the City Council. Exciting to be here because this is the day, and that this building, which has great foundations, was part of the effort for the 32 games. As the city grew, when William Garland in 1920 went to Belgium, went to Antwerp and said, I'm from Los Angeles and we want the games. And they said two things, where's Los Angeles? And then they said, build us a great stadium. And later on, when we called for the games before, a young man who had such an impression was Tom Bradley of the games as he grew up when he migrated from Texas. A great graduate of Poly High when it was down on Western Avenue, a great graduate of UCLA. And John Ferraro, the greatest Trojan of them all, two-time All-American before the war and after the war. Together they did with Marvin Browdy, who wore glasses, 8th vote. All this was important as the city grew. And just as this building stands today, we stand here. And I just got to recognize the Robinson family from Pasadena. Mac Robinson, 81 years ago, silver medal winner in Berlin. All these great Olympians here. John Neighbor, four-time Olympian. Carl Lewis, Janet Evans, and all of you that are here today, because this is what it's all about, to show Los Angeles can welcome the world. And there's nothing that brings peace to the world than athletics and music and dance. I want to salute the late, great Mayor Tom Bradley, who would have been 100 this year, John Ferraro, together, who put this off in a way that was so successful in 1984. And the greatest moments that I must say, and looking at Mr. Bradley, at the closing of the games, when he had the Olympic flag and he waved at Casey Wasserman, he did not want to give it to the mayor of Seoul, Debbie Kim. He wanted to keep it for himself and to keep the Olympics here all the time. And then on the last Monday before the games, it was foggy and overcast. John Ferraro stood under the peristyle, John, and he looked out at 10,000 meters, Gil Cedillo, as he watched a fellow Italian win the 10,000 meters. He was so happy. This is what the game's about, Joe Buscaino. And to the people of Los Angeles, it will be a great time for the youngest of all people, Ronaldo Brown. Stand up, man.
Tom.
This guy is a great one right there.
Tom,
Give him a big hand. I could go on. I thank you. Vote yes. We will be prepared. And I thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Now, Ms. So and Mr. Llewellyn, if you guys could take a moment and talk about the finances, talk about why you feel that this is a better arrangement than before. and maybe you can elevate the comfort level of folk when you talk about all of the work that was put into the 2024 budget and how that really actually translates into the 2028 budget. And Mr. Cedillo, I'm going to go talk to the city attorney, so you're in charge.
So this actually started 2 years ago. There may be some thoughts about this being rushed, but we actually started this process 2 years ago to begin addressing the risk management profile of the games as well as dealing with the budget. So during the course of the 2 years, there has been a number of actions that have been taken by this council to mitigate our financial risks associated with hosting the games. This was done in anticipation of competing for 2024. So as a result of that, there is already a commitment from revenues coming from the IOC, but in addition, there was the prior MOU that was discussed that included a number of things to minimize our risk, that being a greater representation by city government individuals on the organizing committee board. There was also reporting and transparency requirements that required reporting to the council. There was also consent rights for the council as it related to opening and closing ceremonies, as well as any changes from venue, moving venues. Clearly, the intent is to ensure that if the city of Los Angeles is providing financial risk for these games, that the benefit of hosting those games would remain in Los Angeles to the extent possible. So as a result of that, that was the result of the MOU that was previously negotiated. Now, with regard to the opportunity to host the 2028 games, as we mentioned before, there are now additional financial benefits that have been included for the city to consider if we were to decide to pursue the opportunity to accept the 2028 games. And so those benefits relate primarily to additional broadcast revenues and sponsorship revenues. That was an additional $270 million on top of the 1.7 that was previously anticipated for the 2024 games. There is also a $67 million cost savings that was discussed as a result of additional changes in the host city contract for 2028, as well as additional waivers of royalties that would have been due under the 2024 games host city contract. And then there is the two additional items of significance that was offered as part of the 2024-28 host city contract, specifically the IOC's willingness to waive their portion of any surplus that would exist at the conclusion of the games. This is rather significant. I don't think it has been done before. And also, as well as the advance of $180 million to the city to fund the organizing committee operations for the additional time period, as well as to fund the youth sports program, which is also unprecedented because in normal circumstances, those youth programs would not happen until after completion of the games and there was an identified surplus. So with regard to the MOU, which is really the document that we point to protect the city from any additional financial risk, in the 2024 games MOU that we had previously negotiated, there was the additional representation that I mentioned, as well as the reporting and transparency requirements and the approvals. But now, as part of the 2028 games MOU that is now before you and was recently negotiated, those provisions have been strengthened, and specifically what we're trying to do is to address the additional challenge related to having games 4 years later. And namely, what the host city contract insurance policy is what we're pointing to. This is a new requirement that did not exist in the 2024 MOU, as well as increasing that contingency that we discussed, and also including that budget validation that could not occur as a result of LA 28 needing to finalize their budget requirements. But we will be requiring a budget validation after the fact, as well as additional reporting, because the first 3 years are going to be sensitive to additional negotiations that LA 28 will be doing to complete their candidacy, so to speak. And so as a result of that, there will be some quarterly requirements for the first 3 years of reporting to the council. So all in all, those are the additional things that have been done to protect the city from any financial liability. There are additional safeguards that have been negotiated, and we're comfortable that these additional safeguards will be helpful in mitigating any additional risk associated with hosting the games in 2028.
Council members, the only thing I would add or just reiterate is, as Ms. So said, this did not start last week. Your body, I think this committee has had probably 8 to 10 hearings. There have been sort of community meetings all over town. We have spent literally dozens of hours with LA 24/28 going over every line of their budget. You had third-party validation the first round. They've agreed to pay for a third, and they're paying for the third-party validation again this round. They're reporting to you quarterly. You have cabined the risk, I think, to the extent sort of possible, and including things like requiring additional insurance that was not even required before, which is the biggest insurance package in history, and the most rigorously debated budget in history, with even Olympic sort of critics saying, this budget actually looks real. So we believe that this multi-year process will continue. It will continue with your committee. They will be reporting every quarter for the next 3 years, and then regularly after that, a minimum of once a year. You will have ongoing oversight on the board and over the budget, and direct control of venues, ceremonies, and the contingency where it has to be with your agreement. And with all of those protections, which are the result of years of discussion, not weeks of discussion, we believe you have protected the residents of Los Angeles.
Thank you. Mr. Cedillo, or who was next in the queue? Who was next? Well, Mitchell, I'm looking at you. Jump in. Mr. O'Farrell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, I want to compliment you for guiding this process for the last nearly 2 years. Your leadership and the way you even organized this conversation today. So many of the questions that I have been answered from these panel discussions and these presentations. And let me just say this in terms of the context for the legacy of the Olympics. From 1988 to 1990, I ran the gymnastics program at the Wilshire YMCA. And so for 2 years, I coached, mentored inner city kids. Some of those kids, now adults with children, I see from time to time out and about. Some of them are my constituents. And I know that just that program, which was a legacy of the '84 Olympics, they were coached on the floor exercise mat that Mary Lou Retton won her all-around gold medal performing, and all the equipment was donated by the '84 Olympics. The legacy is very real. I have had the benefit of living it in that capacity. To this day, as a former athlete, still very active, trying to stay in shape, I host a fitness challenge every year for 5th graders in the 13th District. I have the great benefit of Mr. Gonzalez handing out medals a couple of years ago. We work in concert with the '84 Foundation for this purpose. So the legacies of the 1984 Los Angeles Olympics live on. My story is one of hundreds and hundreds of stories repeated throughout the city on the legacy and continued benefits that Angelenos are enjoying because of the 1984 Olympics. So I just wanted to lay that out, that there are many, many stories that a lot of people haven't heard from. And I want to thank the housing advocates for coming here and underscoring the importance of affordability, homelessness, etc. You better believe that we're taking that very seriously, and we have been, and we will. I do believe that we can have homes and the games. And I think that as these games are aspirational, they're also inspirational, meaning we're inspired as city officials to reach toward solving some of the issues of our day. What I really like about this proposal as well is that none of us sitting around this horseshoe will be on the city council in 2028. But what we're doing is we are, I think, setting up successfully for our successors to weigh in on what the games will look like and where the very likely profits will go in 2028. Things change. We're not sure exactly what the issues of the day will be in 2028. We certainly hope it's not homelessness and affordable housing to the degree that it is now, but that is something that we're working on. And let me also just say that 21 very short years ago, we were enjoying the afterglow of the Atlanta Olympics. Now, that was 21 years ago, fairly recent. The 28 Olympic Games in Los Angeles, should we get them, will only be 11 years from now. That is the blink of an eye. I would argue that gives us somewhat of an advantage. One question that I had, if something goes really kind of haywire, and the IOC decides to say, you know what, Los Angeles, we do want to give you the 24 Olympics after all. What happens then? I know it's a remote possibility because I believe the tripartite agreement pretty much handles that issue, but if that were to occur, what would the implications be for the city of Los Angeles?
Councilmember, first off, as you say, that is probably unlikely. But your council and the mayor have repeatedly said that this is the most prepared city in the world. Should they ever approach us about doing it quicker, we're probably the only place in the world that could consider that challenge. But I would encourage you, if that offer is ever made to you, to look at it carefully and to reconvene Mr. Wesson's committee to try to figure out if that makes sense for Los Angeles.
Terrific.
The LA 24 team will be reporting to you every quarter. So if they learn that we've been offered the games early, I'm sure that will be in one of their quarterly reports.
Mr. President, I'm going to fire through some really quick questions because I know that time is of the essence.
Yeah, and I'd like to get to some of the other members as well.
Okay, so when can we expect the budget validation time frame?
So the budget validation we anticipate will be provided no later than 18 months after formation of the organizing committee, and so, but we anticipate that it will likely be sooner than that.
All right, and once we have that, we'll have a better understanding of what recourse there may be, should there be unexpected surprises.
Yes, and there'll be adjustments for revenues as well as cost expenditures, and we fully anticipate that based on what we've seen, that there will be a substantial contingency as well as budgeting for all of the items that are required as part of the budget.
Okay.
Councilmember, the reason we put 18 months in the agreement is because the new committee must present their final budget on 28 to the IOC by 18 months from now, and they're required to come back to you with the budget and the validation prior to submitting a final budget to the IOC.
Terrific, thank you. Who appoints the member? We have to appoint at least one member of the OCOG designated by the City of Los Angeles. Who appoints that member?
So the membership actually is not just one member, it is actually 1/6. So that hasn't been determined yet, but the expectation is as part of the games agreement, it's really going to be up to the city to decide how to appoint, whether it's mayor, council, or alternating mayor, council. It will be up to you, but the MOU does provide for the council to decide on how the appointments will take place.
As yet to be decided, all right. And then in terms of, I'll skip this one because it got answered. Let's see. Is it assumed that any U.S. city that hosts the Olympics will have that federal security contingency? Is that just something that is expected, meaning the Homeland Security, providing the, wasn't that something that came out of the 2001?
Yes, sir. The way the federal government currently does their security, we anticipate any city, if a different city, Salt Lake, got the Winter Games, they would also be designated a high-level ISI-EE event.
Okay. Lastly, incoming and outgoing sports. We know that every Olympics, some sporting events are retired and some new ones are brought in. We won't know until, I think, after Tokyo what the implications are for 28. Do we expect any surprises or needed new additional venues based on what we feel, have a sense, could be some of the new sports that are introduced in 2028. Do we have a sense of that?
I don't know if we have a sense of that right now. I mean, it will be dependent upon what happens after Tokyo. There are some exhibition games that are being scheduled now, but the host city contract does always contemplate that there could be potential changes, but with the number of venues that exist here in the city of LA, if there is a need for additional venues, I believe that there wouldn't be a need for additional infrastructure unless it's a real strange sports that we don't know about yet. But
terrific. And to all the Olympians and Paralympians who are here, thank you so much for your presence and for your encouragement and your passion to bring the games back to LA. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think I see Miss Nastia Lucan is still here. Mr. O'Farrell's the one member of the council that can do backflips. Okay, so I just, and work on the rings. Okay, Mr. Krikorian.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. And in the interest of time and deference to my colleagues, I'll reserve most of my comments and questions for council, but I just want to spend a moment on the budget because certainly it's very easy for us all to get very enthusiastic about the Olympics, and most of us are strong supporters of the Olympics, but our first priority always has to be to the taxpayers of the city of Los Angeles. That's what this body is about. So let's talk a little bit about the budget. First of all, we recently had a 2024 budget that was thoroughly analyzed and reviewed by KPMG and was found to be a reasonable, conservative budget in line with assumptions that were based on prior Olympics. Is that right?
Correct.
And does either the CAO or the CLA anticipate that there was any significant changes that would cause the OCOG to fundamentally change the dynamics of that budget because of the 4-year delay?
the only fundamental change that we do anticipate is actually on the revenue side, to be honest.
So that was my next question. We have additional time, the committee will have additional time for marketing, which will presumably enhance revenues. The committee will have a higher share of international sponsorship as well than they would have under 2024. Correct? There will be an opportunity for cost efficiencies because of the tripartite agreement and working in concert with Paris, I assume. There will be an opportunity for some cost reduction there.
That is correct.
And can you speak about the Omega contract and the royalty payments with regard to the USOC? Can we speak about how those might affect the 28 budget as well?
Council members, we have tried to be, and LA 28 has tried to be conservative on measuring what kind of efficiency and savings we will have, but there are some that are directly in the contract. In the last round, LA 24 had to pay a portion of the timekeeping costs, the Omega costs. There was a direct line in their budget of $35 million that under the new contract, they are not paying, that the IOC is paying, the sponsor is ultimately paying. So it's a direct savings in their budget. There was also royalty payments they had to pay again, directly aligned in their budget, that they are under the new agreement not paying. So these are non-speculative savings. These are direct line items, adjustments to the budget that we feel are very conservative. Whereas the general efficiencies they may achieve through the tripartite agreement, we have not tried to quantify, but these are line items that have actually been removed, which are concrete measurable savings.
So there is additional risk. There could be some speculative cost increases that we aren't currently anticipating. But we know with certainty that there will be cost reductions from some of the savings that are already built into this. And we also know with a very high level of certainty that there will be increased revenues because of the marketing and sponsorship opportunities. Correct. Okay. And so if we're wrong about all that, we're still going to have this contract analyzed by KPMG or another third-party analyst within 18 months, which would still give us a decade, essentially, to make changes or adjustments or find other remedies if we determine that for some reason the fundamental economics of the Olympics has changed adversely to the city.
Correct.
Okay. And we retain under the MOU all of the previous guarantees that we had about participation in the OCOG, approval of venue changes, approval of the opening and closing ceremony changes, all of those sorts of issues that might change the economics for the city still retains oversight and approval rights exactly the same as we had in 24.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Kokori and Mr. Price.
I want to thank all those in attendance today. Appreciate those who testified, expressed their points of view in support of or against. Appreciate the leadership of Casey and Gene and the LA 24-28 committee and staff for all its hard work in really creating an exciting opportunity for us, the framework for an exciting opportunity. I certainly share the concerns that were raised by some speakers about not paying attention to the issues associated with housing and health care and homelessness. But I'm also persuaded and enthused by the comments made by Dr. Ross and Jan Kennedy and others who suggested that in 10 years, we certainly can make a dent in some of these issues and some of these problems, and we should be working toward to do that. And so I think that the game is real
disruption.
The game is a real optimistic expression of our confidence in our abilities to really create an environment, a society that benefits all. And I think that's really what the Olympic movement is about. Real excited about opportunities to impact our youth in ways that we haven't before. We know that we've heard testimony of individuals who got inspired early on because of the Olympic movement in their youth. And so the idea of having some additional funds available up front dedicated to our youth is very, very exciting and appealing. Let me understand if I can just sort of back into that a little bit more. The committee is allocating $9 million a year for the next 20 years, or what's that total package look like, and how does that break out?
It's $9 million a quarter for 20 quarters.
Okay. And that's coming straight to the 28 committee? It goes to Parks and Recreation? It goes to some other entity, or what?
So the distribution is still yet to be determined, but yes, it will be coming to the organizing committee. The expectation is that it will come to the whole city, and in terms of distribution, that will be determined later by you as part of the games agreement.
Okay, great. And as far as, are there any strings attached to that distribution?
Only if you put the strings on it.
Okay, but I mean from the IOC, are there strings associated with it? That's just a firm commitment to $9 million a quarter.
The IOC, as part of the host city contract, has indicated that it is for organizing committee costs as well as youth sports.
Okay, again, I know we're going to get into the details of that later, but it's an exciting opportunity, and I think we should take full advantage of. The other area that I think it's going to be important that some members have expressed, members of the public and others have expressed, the opportunities to engage small businesses in ways that we haven't. I know that that's something that the committee is certainly sensitive to, but the chance to provide especially small businesses with opportunities to procure goods, services, et cetera, during that process is going to be really, really important. And I hope that we'll take this time in really creating a structure, an intentional structure that helps us to facilitate that. With all of the pluses of the 84 games, with the surplus and the excitement, the one shortcoming that I've heard from businesses is the failure to deliver. There were lots of promises made in terms of business opportunities, and for the most part, those opportunities just didn't develop in ways that they were planned. And so I just hope that as we move forward, we can start early on engaging businesses, also alerting individuals about potential employment opportunities, so that, again, we're able to take advantage of this opportunity in ways that we haven't, and really create a long legacy that really speaks to not only the success of the games, but the success of our ability to engage citizens in it around in ways that we haven't. So I'm happy to support this. I'm excited about the prospects, and we know that working together we can make this the most successful games ever, and I'm looking forward to doing that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. Buscaino, did you want to weigh in?
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you for your leadership and guidance, and to my committee members, great questions. I'm blessed to have Mr. Kokorian on this panel, chair of our finance budget. Those incredible questions, which leads me to have a lot more comfort in moving forward with the 28 games. If you look at, we do have financial assurances, enhanced safeguards, and additional insurance. I'm comfortable with moving forward and hosting the 28 games. Los Angeles has been known to rescue the Olympic Games. We did so in '32 during the Great Depression. We also did so in 1984 when no one else wanted to host the games. And here before us is another opportunity to work hand in hand with the IOC on games that will again support our youth programs and put a shine on the city of Los Angeles. And to the skeptics out there, I understand and hear clearly why they are too concerned about the concerns and also the risks based on what took place in Rio. Let me say this, LA is no Rio. We can host the games today.
Now,
we
wait
can
a
host
minute.
the games
That's
tomorrow.
no disruption.
We can host the games in 2028. And lastly, as Maria Elena reminded us, our number one industry here in the city of Los Angeles is, can you remove that individual, please?
Sergeants, they've been warned 3 times. Go back. Somebody else blurts out, then remove them from the chambers. We let you speak.
Well, let me tell you something, sir. I've handled poverty as a police officer. Okay, I've been on the streets, and what these games will do will create jobs and weed out poverty and put Los Angeles on the map. This is a job generator. This is a job generator, and this is what's right for the city of Los Angeles. And I'm tired of hearing these people coming to us and questioning our decision-making. We're doing what's right for the people of this city, and we're doing what's right for these games, and bring it back to Los Angeles.
Remove that person. Okay, now, we're getting ready to, first, I just want to take a moment. Mr. Cedillo, you good? Or did you want to say something now? Or because I just want to say, the thing that makes this country great is we agree to disagree and we have debates. There's no reason why we have to just yell and scream at one another. So let other people speak like we let you speak. What I've said, though, if you cannot do that, you will be removed from the chambers. That's my last warning. Okay, now, Mr. Cedillo, and then I'll wrap this up. Mr. Cedillo?
Mr. Chairman, thank you for your leadership on this matter. Thank you for all the time that you spend on this. It's an honor and it's a privilege for me from Boyle Heights to be sitting here with you and all these great Olympians and leaders of our nation. You know, this Monday I met with a developer. I'm a supporter of sports and the role they play in transforming people's individual lives. I met with a developer and we were talking about an incredible project that's coming forth in my district, one that will bring a much needed hotel, housing, community space, and union jobs to my district. And we talked about its design and what it's going to mean to the city, to the important industries of our city, the service industries in particular. And then we talked about the Olympics. And now with a new date, there's a renewed effort for this developer, at least, to make this project be online and on time for 2028. That's real jobs. Those are real services. Those are real opportunities. And I'm just very excited about that. That's what 2028, in a real sense, means to us. Are the Olympics going to solve homelessness? I don't know. I don't think so. That's not what they're designed for. Are they going to solve affordability in the city of Los Angeles? That's not their mission. That's not their charge. Are they going to solve the divide between wealth and poverty in this nation? Again, not their mission, not their charge. Will they bring health care to all Americans? Probably not. Again, not their mission, not their charge. What they will do, though, is that they will inspire people to solve those problems. That's what they will do. They will bring to young men and women the type of courage, the type of commitment, the type of never quit attitude that makes people leaders in our society. Not everyone's going to be an Olympian and get to have the honor and privilege of wearing your uniform. But there will be, and I say to you, and I know this to be true, thousands and thousands of young people who will be inspired to become leaders in our society, people of influence, people of integrity, people of conviction, and people of commitment. Students Run LA is an amazing program. That's very real and concrete. Their success is extraordinary, and it's a product of the '84 Olympics. That's not rhetoric, that's reality. The 3,500 arts programs that are funded through the '84 Olympics are reality. It's not rhetoric. Artists play a critical role in our society. I agree with Dr. Ross. I think we can do both. I think we have to do both. This is what our charge is today. We have to address the concerns that have been articulated. That's our job. That's our duty. That's our responsibility. But the Olympics aren't an impediment to that. I would argue to you that they play a very critical role, not just setting a deadline for us to strive, but the inspiration they bring to our community. I cannot minimize that. I will not minimize that. Paul Gonzalez sits there. He's a champion from Boyle Heights, from the projects. He lived a few blocks from where I lived. I sit here, someone asked me, how do you spend 20 years working on a project? It's because of sports. Because I learned never to quit. I learned to come back, continue the fight, continue the struggle. And that's in each and every Olympian, but more so it's in each and every person who aspires to become an Olympian. They become leaders. I agree with Marilena Durazo. I don't think anybody can challenge her commitment to working men and women, to the immigrant workforce. And she acknowledges there's going to be prosperity for the hospitality industry and its workforce. And those men and women who work in that industry, as my mother did, take pride in being and serving the Olympic Games. They simply do. It will bring honor and prestige to this city that in many respects some people cannot measure and cannot appreciate. That's the importance of this debate today, Mr. President. I agree with the NRDC. It will help make us a sustainable and successful city. That's what this does. It is not an either-or choice for us. It's a choice that we must bring and make together. We must integrate these. Leadership will make the Olympic Games a success for Los Angeles and for the nation. Finally, let me say, and I have to say this, there's a policy that exists in the city of Los Angeles. We have Special Order 40. I was just with Tuesday. I do this weekly now at a forum at a local church. About 500, 600, 700 people, mostly immigrants, with the LAPD where they articulated their policies. Very important at this moment. There is a specter of fear that within the immigrant community, one person gets snatched out of their car as they take their daughter to school, and parents stop taking their kids to school. That's a reality. ICE agents show up at a courthouse. Somebody's doing their business. As they walk out the courthouse, they get snatched. That sense of fear throughout the immigrant community. This is a reality. I get that. We understand that. We accept that. But the games will not enhance that. The fact of the matter is the Los Angeles Police Department separates its ongoing close collaboration with DHS, the Department of Homeland Security, on issues related to Los Angeles safety and security. They separate that policy from DHS's federal immigration policy. The fact of the matter is LAPD has long held policies that will not be impacted by the Olympic and the Paralympic Games being designated as a national special security event. There is no evidence to suggest otherwise. Those are the facts. Now, I would hope that we have a completely different immigration policy in this nation in 11 years. I will do all that I can to make that a reality. And we should all do the same. We should do no less. But simply to say that today we have a bad immigration policy, a horrible immigration policy, and somehow that's going to be the status quo in 11 years, that's just not acceptable. And it's wrong to speculate that that's going to be the case. Yes, Mr. President. Thank you so much. You're an Olympian. Let me just say finally, I thank you so much. For a kid from Borough Heights, it's a real honor and it's a real privilege to sit here in front of you. All of you sitting in front of me have been personal inspirations. I want to thank the Olympians and the Paralympians particularly, because those who are involved in the Paralympics, I think, are really breaking down barriers and are really, really changing the world. I mean, they are really creating inclusiveness. We have choices here before us today. I believe that the Olympic movement is a peace movement, and we have choices here before us today. I suggest that we choose leadership, we choose success. And one last thing, just to talk about facts, we are perhaps the only city that has 2 successful Olympic Games. That's what I look to. You can tell me other people aren't successful. That's fine. That has nothing to do with us. We Angelenos, we Los Angeles know how to get this done, and we should take the opportunity to do it again. I thank you. God bless you.
Thank you, Mr. Cedillo. Thank you. And there will be uniforms available for everyone. I'm going to design them. We'll have nice skinny suits for the entire city council. Okay, Richard, Mr. Clerk, what business is before this committee? Because members, we've got to make a recommendation to the full body. So what is before us?
Mr. Chair, we have the joint CAO-CLA report and the recommendations in the report, as well as an accompanying resolution and the attachments to the CAO-CLA's report, including the tripartite agreement, the host city contract, and the memorandum of understanding.
Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to call for a vote, and I'm going to call for a roll call vote. So Wesson, aye. Mr. Krikorian? Aye. Mr. O'Farrell? Mr. Buscaino? Aye. Mr. Price?
Aye.
Mr. Cedillo?
Cedillo, aye.
Cedillo, aye. How many votes is that, Mr. Clerk?
Sir, that is 6 votes, and that is unanimous.
I think the ayes have it. So we will recommend that. Again, thank everyone for coming. Is there any other business before this committee?
No, sir, that clears the desk.
Okay, so within the next few minutes, for those of you that are here, we will go into the full council session. We have a couple of presentations, and then we will take up this issue. Anyway, members, this ad hoc on Olympics committee hearing is adjourned.